I'm Ryan.
And I am Julia.
And together we are...
Functionally literate!
We can read. Guys, I promise we can read.
I can read. You know who can't read?
Who?
Leah Michelle.
Who's that?
From Glee. Have you not heard that conspiracy theory?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do remember
Everyone
this.
says like she like just memorizes things. It's a joke.
The woman who plays the worst character on the show and in real life also actually is awful,
the worst. Yeah.
supposedly cannot read.
Yeah.
And there's a huge in-depth conspiracy about this. My wife wants to believe it.
I do too.
She thinks it's hilarious.
I'm with Cara. Like, I think it is so funny. So I just maybe have her on the show. No, just joking. But
yeah, no, we would never have Leah Michelle on the show.
Absolutely
ever,
not.
Ever. Cara, though, she and we're going to cover The Princess Bride.
I cannot wait to listen to that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyways, today we are reading The Obelisk Gate. That is book 2 of the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. We are specifically covering chapters 10 through 12 today. If this is your first time with this show, highly recommend you go back to at least the beginning of this book, if not the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
Not a good jumping on point, I promise. Not a good jumping on point.
If anything, spoilers left and right in this episode.
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to thank my people ahead of time before we jump into it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you for being here. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me.
You're welcome. I want to thank Vidwest Studios. This would not be possible without them. They provide all of our equipment and the recording space that we are using. It is a community studio. I pay $75 a year so I can use this place.
And they have some comfy chairs.
Yeah, we're sitting in comfy chairs.
They're
right
great.
now. Yeah, like them. I want to thank Jake Weller for music. Music's great. If you like our intro music, you should check out his album, Wasting Time. That reminds me, have you listened to Jake's album yet?
Yes, remember?
No.
You sent it to me because you were like, listen to these and tell me what songs you like.
Yeah.
For an intro.
You know, I'm getting tripped up because I just listened to the most recent episode that came out for us. So for posterity, the 5th season, chapters 9 through 11, that episode came out. And in that episode, I asked you, have you listened to Jake's album? And you said, no, but I'm going to. And I said, good.
And I did.
And you did.
And I did.
And it's really good.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and anyways, yeah, so we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna talk about chapter 10.
You've got a big job ahead of you. Your mentor tells you everything. You agree to catch the moon.
Guys, this is my favorite chapter.
Oh my God. Me fucking too. This was so good.
It was so good.
It felt so rewarding because there has been so many questions in this book so far, and it was just reveal after reveal after reveal.
So I guess the big thing is, what do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about Core Point? Do we want to talk about the Stone Eaters?
Maybe chronologically is the easiest way.
Okay, so we should just talk about how Alabaster talks about it.
Yeah, basically how it he goes back and he's like, let's start to, me getting dragged
into the earth
by antimony.
And antimony.
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 Yeah. Antimony dragged him down against his will, and he was trying to fight her, which he says in this moment was a stupid thing to do, because if he had broken free, he would have died immediately.
Stuck in the earth, I'm assuming.
Yeah, could you imagine? Yeah, you're dead immediately. But he sensed that Koru died. Yeah. And when that happened, he stopped fighting. And then Antimony dragged him to the other side of the world.
It's insane.
It is insane.
I have to bring this up too. Remind me, this is terrible.
No,
but
you're fine.
What is the name of Alabaster and Asun's lover from the island?
I'm awful too.
You don't remember?
I don't remember his
That's
name.
fine because I have a friend who just finished 5th season today, and you know what he's been calling him?
What?
Pirate Daddy.
Pirate Daddy!
I was like, that's iconic. And that has nothing to do with this. I just wanted to make sure I said it in this episode before I forgot.
Unfortunately, as lovely as that character was, he was only in like 2 chapters.
know.
And I just cannot remember what his name was for the life of me.
So going forward, his name is now Pirate Daddy.
Pirate Daddy also died, and Alabaster was devastated about the loss of him and his son. And so, Antimony dragged him to the other side of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And where she dragged him to was... So this is crazy. And you guys, you've read it, but maybe you haven't. So I'm just going to try and succinctly, as I remember it. So Core Point is a city.
A dead civ.
It's a dead civ comp. But he describes it, he's like, I saw a city. And the way that he talks about this, it really does drive home how fucking vast and crazy all of this stuff was.
And the magic is insane because part of this city talks. If you use the right words, they say that it could open doors, turn on lights, make a room warmer or colder, but it doesn't always work.
You have to know the language. So it is a language that the Stone Eaters have adopted. Yeah. To the point where that's the only language they speak.
Well, some of them speak.
That's the only language that the Core Point native Stone Eaters. Yeah. So the way it's explained. Yeah, Core Point is a dead civ comm on the other side of the world. Under it, and this is Asun can't even fathom that. She's like, oh, what do you mean? There's nothing over there. That doesn't mean anything to her. All she can picture on the opposite side of the world is ocean.
Right.
And so she's like on an island? What do you mean? And he's like, it's not really an island. It's straight up, it's a city on top of the ocean. And under the city is a massive shield volcano. Mm-hmm. So for those of you that weren't paying attention in school, or maybe you just missed that day, or maybe you just forgot. So shield volcanoes are, what's interesting about them is when the volcano erupts, that magma just kind of pools out all around. And so it makes, every time it erupts, it just makes it wider. It makes it a little taller, but it mainly makes it wider. And so the reason why it's called a shield volcano is it kind of looks like a shield if you laid it on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so this is a massive shield volcano on the side of the world that is not the Stillness. Right. And it is centered on the eruption point, like a Core Point is. It is, it's in the name. It's right on top at the surface. The volcano's underwater. And this city, it is there solely for the purpose of containing this volcano. Yeah. The volcano, the only reason the volcano exists is because some civilization a long fucking time ago decided to bore a hole to the Earth's core. Yeah. Like Dr. Evil.
It is real evil. And they talk about how even the Stone Eaters kind of disagree about why did these people fucking do this? The most obvious answer being power. Yeah. Yeah. They want power.
The Alabaster straight up believes that this old civilization of origins made this city, made the hole, made the city to contain the hole, and then made all the obelisks to harness the power from the Earth's core.
But something went wrong.
Something went wrong.
Something went badly
Something went
wrong.
really wrong. And the obelisks misfired, according to Alabaster, or glitched or something, and then flung the moon away, and cause the shattering.
And now we have seasons.
And now we have seasons.
And guess who's pissed?
Alabaster's pissed.
And the Earth.
And the Earth. Yeah. No, the Earth is super fucking pissed. So basically,
honestly, like, I do not blame Father Earth.
no. Like, it's insane.
And that's like kind of Alabaster's like whole point. Is he's like, the Earth has a right to be mad. The moon was its baby, and they flung the moon away.
They flung the moon away.
They flung
the
his
moon
baby away. That was his baby.
Like, and it really fucks things up for all of
Yeah.
us too. You know, like the moon is such a stabilizing force
Mhm.
for Earth. You know,
Yeah.
it
The waves, like
waves, our day-night cycle,
Yeah.
the magnetism, like weather, like it really cannot be overstated how fucking important the moon is.
I know. I'm just like dying reading this because I'm like
These fucking idiots.
and you know, Alabaster is so mad, and I even highlighted this one point where he's just like, he's so mad. He's like, it's not just like any, you know, civilization.
Yeah.
It's Origins
Yeah.
that did this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, we destroyed the world, just like they always say we did. Ragas.
And he says it with such a venom.
Yeah.
He fucking, like, it really drove home to me, like, oh man, he really hates who and what he is.
Yeah.
He really hates himself.
Yeah. And I think it's sad because, you know, Alabaster, you personally
You didn't
do this.
No. Like, you did destroy the world
but,
again.
Right.
But
with good reason. With the
Yeah.
information he had, he's making the best choice he thinks he should.
yeah. So that's why Core Point was built, and it functions on these really weird living crystals, and like you said, you know, it's responsive to people's voices, but only if they're using like the correct language.
Yeah.
And like the people that made this city are long, long gone. We have no idea what happened to them, but the city is still functioning. It's still around. It's not collapsed like a normal dead civ.
Uh-huh.
And like tens of thousands of years ago, this group of dozens or maybe even hundreds of stone eaters took
Which
it.
used to be human.
That's
That's
big
another
reveal.
huge reveal.
That these stone eaters used to be human, and Earth took them and tried to make them more like itself,
Yeah.
and fucked it up. They're still people, and they're still pissed, and they are not loyal to the Earth.
No.
That was a big reveal.
Yeah. And they're so old that they like
Yeah.
forget these things.
Yeah, like they talk about that because like Alabaster just keeps saying, imagine this, imagine this, imagine this. And like Asun can't imagine. Like he's like, imagine being 5,000 years old.
Mhm.
Imagine being 10,000 years old. Imagine being 30,000 years old.
Yeah.
Imagine being so old that like I can't even remember shit that happened 50 years ago.
Mhm.
How can you remember shit that happened thousands of years ago?
It's
And
insane.
Asun can't imagine that. And then like he's like, I think like they're still people. They're just
Mhm.
not human anymore
Yeah.
because living that long must turn you into something alien.
Totally.
And so he's like, there's a few stone eaters that like were there from the very beginning, like people like Antimony, people like
Mhm.
Hoa, and she can't like Asun cannot fathom that little 7-year-old Hoa is actually a stone eater.
And Hoa's been a 7-year-old for ever.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, also like something to keep in mind is, and like they kind of use this this prose in this chapter. This is a skin that he's wearing. This is
Mhm.
what he, or at least this is what Asun thinks. This is what Hoa used to look like when he was human.
Right.
But he just hasn't been in this form in a long time.
Yeah.
And arguably, it's not even really the true form. It's just like a an adaptation of that form.
Right.
Assuming it even is his original form.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows? But yeah, that was a big thing.
That was huge.
And the other thing was, Alabaster talks about how this is a 3-sided war.
I was literally about to say that. I had that highlighted.
But it's not made clear what every side is.
Right.
One side is Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Another side is the people that are trying to end the war through a truce.
Right.
Right?
But
Earth doesn't want a truce.
No. Earth is mad. And that's like another thing Alabaster is like hammering home is he's like, Father Earth is fucking real. Like the Loris, like, yeah, some of the shit that they say is not real. Like it's like made up, whatever. But he's real.
That's true.
Like he's mad.
The Earth is alive, Asun. The Earth is alive. The Earth is pissed at us. The Earth has been at war with us for so long. We've forgotten that we're in war with Earth.
The Earth wants his baby back.
And if we don't end this war soon, and then he trails off and just kind of lets that statement hang there.
Yeah.
And how does he know this? Oh, because he jumped into the Earth's core.
Had a little one-on-one combo with the Earth.
So yeah, rewinding a second. He spent a few years at Core Point.
Mm-hmm.
And like he was studying a bunch of stuff. And,
yeah.
Well, actually, we should rewind a little bit more. Because we're not doing this chronologically, even though we said we were going
I know,
to.
but
fine.
We got too excited.
We did. We got super excited.
so
a few days after, like, Alabaster was brought here, like, he mourned his losses for 3 days.
Right.
He mourned losing Cyanite, he mourned losing Koru, he mourned losing Pirate Daddy, whose name we cannot remember. And yeah, he like for 3 days he did nothing else. And when he tells Asun this, Asun is like, you should not have mourned me. Like, I don't deserve to be mourned. And it's like, man, have some self-love.
I know.
But he says that Antimony brought him to the hole because in the center of Core Point there is a hole. Yeah. Which again, Asun was like a watering hole? No.
Like can you swim in it?
Yeah. And he's like, no, a hole. Down and down and down and down and down to the core of the earth, like beyond like the surface, like the floor of the ocean, down below that and beyond. And so like there's a ton of like neon signs and blaring alarms when you get too close to it. And he just jumped in there and he's like, at first he's seeing like a bunch of windows and shit. And he's like, people used to live down there. They could just see into the hole. And he's just falling and falling and falling and falling and falling. And he has no idea how long he was falling. It could have been hours. It could have been days. He was falling.
Doesn't he say something about a suicide attempt here?
He says it's not suicide because he had no intention to die.
Yeah.
He had this mad idea that if he just jumped into the hole, he could find his way back to Cyanite.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet when you think about it. But
it's
also really
sweet,
insane.
But so it's the morning is talking.
Yeah. Because he was surrounded by stone eaters for years.
And they don't know how to act human. Like they're not acting human.
They're not human anymore.
They don't comfort. They don't like
they forget that humans need to be social.
Yeah, that they want to have conversations.
Yeah. Most of the stone eaters, they like stared at him like a zoo animal, or they like reviled him because they were like, ew. And he felt the same way about them. But yeah, he jumps into this hole and he falls forever, and then like things slow down, and then he stopped, and he trails off again. He does not say what he saw down there, and Asun does not ask.
Yeah.
She is a brave woman, and she knows what she can take, and she knows what she can't. So we don't know what happened, but I think it's fair to guess that the Earth talked to him, because that's when he says, the Earth is alive, Asun.
We chatted. We had tea.
Yeah.
Tea and crumpets.
Tea and crumpets.
I can't imagine it was a pleasant conversation.
No. Based off of how that voice spoke to Schaffa, which I still believe was Earth.
I think that you're right.
Yeah.
From what I know
No.
now.
No, not pleasant at all.
No.
Um,
You know what's interesting to me is like, it's again with like the wordplay that NK does so well. It's the usage of evil Earth.
yeah.
I just was thinking about it so much this chapter, and I've thought about it at other points too, but I'm like, man, they really paint the Earth as this thing of being evil. But I really think the Earth is just upset.
The Earth is pissed, man.
And I like don't I don't think the Earth is
And
evil.
he's not forgetting.
Yeah. He's like, I don't forgive you. I'll never forget this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I'm wondering about this, right? Because I remember I asked you when we first started reading this book. No, I'm sorry, this series.
Yeah.
I asked you, what does it mean that the Earth's symbol that's traditionally viewed as female here is viewed as male?
Yes.
And I think this explains that a bit, right? I don't think the Earth actually has a gender.
Right.
I think that's all human anthropomorphizing.
I agree.
I think that because now the Earth is doing aggressive things to the planet,
It's male.
it's male.
Yeah.
They made it male
Yeah.
because, like, they viewed it as male.
They said a woman would never do
A woman would
this.
never do that. Yeah. Like
That's
this,
really
this
interesting.
is male anger.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, I don't know. I don't think the Earth has a gender here.
It definitely doesn't. Oh man, it's so good. This book is so good.
It really is. Moving on. So,
Alabaster's sad as shit, so he jumps into the hole, talks to the Earth, comes back up.
Oh yeah, and in this moment when he's talking to Nassun, he's like, "When I die, give my body to Antimony." And Antimony reappears in this moment, and she's like, "Fuck no, I'm not giving your body to Antimony." And he's like, "It's either that or the Earth gets me, and the Earth cannot get me." And I'm just wondering, what the fuck is the Earth gonna do to you when you're dead, bro?
I think that has to do with the conversation, maybe, that him and the Earth had. That it doesn't seem like it would be pleasant.
And so at this point, Antimony, Alabaster is too tired to continue talking because Nassun showed up a little bit later than usual today, and like she usually shows up around the same time, chats with him for an hour before he gets too tired and leaves. But this conversation is really fucking important, and so Antimony is there again. Like she comes back, and she came back at a good time because when he was like Ragas, like just saying it like that with all that hate, like it damaged him. Yeah. Because he's turning into stone.
Right.
So yeah, she shows up shortly afterwards and like starts, does the thing that she usually does, rests her hand on his back to kind of help him. Which is another thing that I forgot. For this whole conversation, that Nassun was doing that for him.
Yeah.
While they were talking. Well, anyways. So Antimony takes over and explains. And so I'm gonna succinctly put it this is the most succinct way that I could put the explanation that Antimony gives her. Using the power of the rift that Alabaster made, channeled through the Obelisk gate, which, unless I misunderstood, is all of the obelisks, all 216 of them, networked together through a control Kabakon, whatever the fuck that is. Using the power of the rift channeled through that should be enough to impose equilibrium on the Earth-Moon system. Because what's happening is when the moon was flung away, it went into a degrading long ellipsis orbit, which means that picture an ellipsis. It's a long, narrow oval that the moon didn't just fly out of the solar system. It's still
stuck.
It's still in an orbit. It's just a fucked up orbit.
It's the wrong orbit.
It's the wrong orbit.
Yeah.
It's we don't have a moon and nobody sees it when it's orbiting. And so what Alabaster did was the first of two steps. He caused this rift and he used the power of the rift in order to make the first course correction, right? To alter the orbit so the moon doesn't pass by the Earth.
Yeah.
So unless I missed my unless I missed a step, I think what that means is if, I think that means the moon is going to crash into the Earth. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah, unless Asun can catch it.
Catch the fucking moon.
That's the best line. I highlighted it. You want me to catch the fucking moon.
Yeah, which she doesn't say that. Like, that's... No, she does say that.
She literally says,
She
you want me to catch the fucking moon.
She yells that. But at the end of the page there, she says, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I'll help you. And then she can't bring herself to say, I'll help you catch the moon. She says, I'll do whatever you need me to do.
Yeah.
Because it's like the choices are it's in her mind it's not even a choice. It's either die in this endless 5th season or do this thing that could potentially end all 5th seasons, or at least spread them out long enough that for all intents and purposes from a human's point of view they're over with.
Give Father Earth back his lost child, and perhaps his wrath will be appeased.
Right. And so that's one of the 3 factions.
Yeah.
Which is just trying to make peace. And 2 of these 3 factions are trying to decide what to do with us, with people.
Right.
Earth hates the Origins most.
Right.
Understandably. It's so much in this one little chapter.
I know.
It's nuts.
So NK keeps her cards close to her chest, and she doesn't reveal until she reveals everything. Not everything,
hey,
but so
here's
much.
my royal flesh.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
And like, she is a master. Like,
yeah.
After this chapter, I was just utterly and completely blown away. I was like, how did your brain do this?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really fucking bonkers.
It's genius. It's
Catching
just
the
genius.
moon is bonkers.
It's just genius.
Yeah.
I love it. I just love it.
So, anyways, the chapter ends with Asun sleeping next to Alabaster with a cot.
And she's being sung to sleep.
Yeah, and Timony starts singing again. She does that a lot. She just kind of sings in a weird Stone Eater way. It's beautiful, but like ethereal.
Yeah.
But then like when she starts doing that, Asun sleeps better than she has in months.
Yeah.
Better than she has in months. And that's how the chapter ends. And I think there might have been an end blur, but I didn't write it down.
I have it.
Go ahead.
Tablet 2, The Incomplete Truth, verse 6. Seek the retrograde, obscured, in the southern sky. When it grows larger, obscured.
No fucking clue. I
Not-
assume it's spacey stuff.
No fucking clue. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm not smart enough.
Yeah. The incomplete truth. So accurate.
Yeah.
It's very incomplete. Chapter 11. Schaffa, lying down. The Guardian dreams and remembers and vows to be better than he once was. So this is a baby chapter.
Yes.
7 pages. Most of these pages are focused on Schaffa's dreams.
Yeah.
So Guardians don't really dream. The implants in their heads like interrupts that like REM cycle. So Guardians typically don't dream. Schaffa's implant is damaged though.
Yeah.
And so he does dream sometimes, which he thinks is disturbing. But it doesn't change the fact that he does dream tonight. And he dreams of a few things. He dreams of his parents, whose names he can't remember, but he can like visualize them clearly. He dreams of Warrant and being made into a Guardian as a child.
Getting his neck sliced and it almost killing him.
Yeah. He dreams of the Fulcrum. He dreams of traveling. He dreams of Lechette. Have we heard that name before?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, she's introduced here. Like, she was another Guardian that he knew. And as I recall, she kind of taught Schaffa a lot, but then like in her like as she got older over the centuries, like she became a little softer on the Origin kids, and he didn't understand why. It was yeah. And then of the girl is Demaya.
Yep.
Or
Cyanite. Asun.
Asun, yes, this person, and
Us.
us. Yeah, he dreams of us. This episode is brought to you by the Greg Bush for House District 50 campaign. Greg Bush is a registered nurse, nurse's advocate, proud union member, husband, and father who has called Columbia home for 18 years as of this May. I know him from church, and I co-starred with his wife in a Maplewood Barn production last year, The Crucible. She played Tituba. I played Reverend Hale. And now Greg, is running for House District 50, which is in Southern Columbia. He worked his way up the ranks at MU Healthcare and put himself through school to become a registered nurse after starting as a janitor in 2006. He's running as an advocate for patients and nurses since he's been on the front lines of watching the outcome of extremist politicians in Jeff City. He has 3 children, 1 a graduate, with 2 children still in Columbia Public Schools. He will be a fierce advocate for public education in Columbia. As a member of a working family, he already has the endorsement of 2 of the largest unions in Missouri since he's a union member and has been for nearly a decade. Check him out at Greg Bush for House District 50 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please consider voting for him in November. And if you can't vote for him because you don't live in House District 50, consider donating to his campaign. I have an Act Blue link that will be included in the episode description. Back to the show. He is dreaming of Demaya. It's just too much for him.
It wakes him up.
And then, but that's the interesting thing, right? He dreams of the girl and he realizes who Nassun is.
Yep.
In this moment, because he goes to the place where those kids sleep. Not before we get a fun little factoid, which is the other 2 guardians don't remember their names. They are also damaged in the same way he is, but they don't remember their original names. He's the only one that does.
Yeah.
They had to make up names for themselves. But yeah, he goes to check on the children, and he, ostensibly is going to check on the children, but he's really going to just go look at Nassun.
Yeah.
And he's looking at her face, and it's the girl reborn. It's Demaya reborn.
Yeah.
And he accidentally wakes her up, and he's like, go to sleep. But then, because he's so anxious, he's like, Nassun, are you afraid of me? She's like, never. And he's so happy about that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's shocked based off his past behavior of what he can remember. No.
Yeah. Yeah, because, he's thinking about the stuff that he used to do. He was like, how could I have been so awful? How could I have been so cruel? How could I have done those things?
Right.
And then here's this little girl that's like, no, I would never be scared of you.
Their relationship is about to be like this.
Either that or it's about to get, she just crossed her fingers. Either that or it's going to get real fucked.
Well, I'm saying maybe, I agree. I think that they're about to be thick as thieves, and then it's going to turn into another situation of most likely abuse.
Yeah.
If I were to wager a guess.
I don't know.
But I don't know, again, because is this Schaffa's redemption arc? I don't know.
Who's to say? He resolves in this moment, I am never going to harm this child. I harmed those other kids.
Well, and he has another moment where I'm assuming it's the earth, like you said, talking to him, where it says, use her, break her so willfully, like her mother, train this one to obey.
Yeah.
No, Schaffa thinks back, embraces himself to bear a lash of retaliation. It is only pain.
So yeah, the way I'm interpreting this is, because the moment he decides he's never gonna harm this girl, that is when he gets this mad impulse to fuck her up.
Yeah.
And he resists that urge, and he leaves in pain.
Yeah.
The earth's grip is not
it's punishing him through his
connection. Yeah. But it's not it doesn't have a stranglehold on him.
Right.
It can't make him do anything. It can only hurt him for disobeying.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
Right. And the way that he could get relieved pain is from
Magic.
Absorbing
magic.
Yeah, and so it's like, and what, I mean, you absorb it from the origin. It's just like a sick cycle.
Yeah. Because Earth wants him to kill the Origins.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the only way you're gonna curb this hunger is if you do what I want you to do.
Yeah.
Kill them.
It's
Kill them.
crazy.
Yeah, it is
Wow.
crazy. Anyways, moving on. Was there a blurb at the end of this chapter?
No.
Okay.
No blurb.
Moving on.
Chapter 12. Nassun. Falling Up. How Nassun came to terms with who she is and thus suffered 2 losses.
So, chapter 12.
Chapter 12.
I did not take notes for this chapter.
Took some notes.
Good. So, orient me.
Yeah.
What happened?
So it starts off with Nassun, and she's training and she's enjoying it. You could even say she's loving it. She definitely likes it more than the other children seem to like it.
Yeah.
Well,
that makes sense.
Yeah, because she's the best.
She's much more powerful than any of them. She's leagues more powerful than the strongest of the other ones.
Right. So she's having a little bit of fun.
Yeah. I remember this bit of like Schaffa letting her have pretty much open access to, like, they made a crucible there, and so like they let her. She gets like pretty much open access to that, like to utilize it, and like something that I thought was interesting is they let her like explore Sessing.
Yeah.
Something that in the Fulcrum, as I understand it, was not.
They did not let you do that in the Fulcrum.
Yeah.
And we learn more, I think, towards the end of this chapter about, like, the fact that they only let certain people go up to certain power for breeding and breeding alone.
Yeah, I remember he talked about that.
But that's me jumping the gun a little bit.
I mean, it's still in the chapter.
Yeah.
I remember they talked about how one of the Guardians like tends to just kind of say a little, like says a lot of stuff, says a lot of it doesn't make any sense, but some of it actually like is useful information. And so they kind of let her say whatever because sometimes you get some useful nuggets.
She spills the tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And an important part, we talked about this in an earlier episode, is about how Nassun like can see magic in a way. She can see the silver, and she starts to see it. I'm calling it silver because this is where she like really,
That's how she refers to it,
right? And so she says that it's easier to see the silver in people because it's more concentrated.
But she
more
can,
potent,
but
more
she
intense.
Can see it in the world as well.
Yeah, she can see it in the earth as well. But she sees it on Schaffa.
Mm-hmm.
And that is dangerous.
Yeah,
for her,
because we forgot to mention it at the end of her last chapter. But Schaffa did straight up say, like,
don't tell anybody.
Don't, especially not the other 2 Guardians. It
They'll
would be dangerous for you.
Yeah.
If they knew what you know.
And he almost like kind of considers killing her because she knows this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We kind of jumped over that, but
he ultimately decided not to, and then as we discussed,
that's progress.
He's decided not to do that.
And that's huge. Big of him, really.
Really big of him. Bare minimum for most people, but
and Nassun is like struggling right now because she's still living at home with her dad.
She's the only one of the Origins doing that. The others don't get it. They're like, you should like live here so you can really truly be one of us,
because he doesn't want to hear about this. The only reason he cares about her going there is because he thinks that once she gets to a certain skill level, she'll be able to
No longer be an
being
origin.
sad. And she doesn't like want that anymore, like because she's starting to like accept this side of herself.
But Schaffa acknowledges that it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Like he's straight up like, yes, you could reach a level of skill to where you could like no longer possess orogeny. But I don't want that for you, is what he says.
Yeah. And he also is very concerned about her safety.
He is.
Living with her dad.
This is one of those things that really got me thinking, right? Yeah. Because so what happened, as I recall it, she goes home and he's like, where the hell have you been? Because she stayed there overnight one night, right?
Yes.
So she's like, where the hell have you been? She was like, I stayed overnight, like, you know, with the other origins. Mm-hmm. And she talks about, she
mentions that one boy.
She mentions Eats.
Eats, yes.
She mentions about Eats. She talks about him a bit. And then he's like, you mean that one who's old enough that he could have, like, lost his orogeny and become normal by now?
But he chose not to.
Yeah. And so, like, all she says about it is, like, yes. And that mollifies him.
And it starts to become, like, a distraction in her studies.
Yes, because she's so terrified of her father and what he's going to do, how he's going to react. That, like, there is a moment when she is in when she is with, I mean, I guess we call it the fulcrum.
Right.
I mean, it's not a fulcrum, but that's the...
Found moon.
Yes, when she's in Found Moon, that, she
almost kills herself, essentially.
Did she almost, like, ice herself? Yeah, is that what it was?
Basically, because she's, like, not paying attention and is just distracted.
Well, she's, like, exploring. Mm-hmm. And, yeah. Now correct me if I'm wrong. There is a moment here where she, and this is where the falling up comes in, where she connects with the Obelisk gate, with that network, right?
Sorry, I'm looking. Yes, I think you are right. I didn't write anything down about that.
But that did happen.
Right.
That didn't happen in a later chapter.
No, you're right. You're right.
That's where the falling up comes in. She connected with something else. And, well, I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Before that happened, Schaffa was like, listen, your safety is the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
Like, she straight up says to him, don't kill my dad.
Right.
Right?
And he's like, well, I'm going to kill him if he is threatening you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I think that's...
If he's a danger, I'm taking him down.
I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, he said, if your father proves to be a threat, I will remove the threat.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
It's sad, too, because there's so much that I've, like, highlighted in this chapter. But, like, before that, you know, what spawns that conversation with Schaffa is she says, I need to learn how to hide what I am better.
Yeah. And doesn't he say something like, you should never need to hide who you are?
Well, yeah, he... No, he doesn't say that. Instead, that's when he says, are you safe?
Yeah. Very insightful, Schaffa.
I know.
Insightful.
I'm like, man... He's changed.
He really
changed
has.
A lot.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's what spawns that conversation.
Where she says, do not kill my father.
And so then she's like, you know, like she's sessing in the crucible, and then she nearly kills herself. And then Schaffa's straight up like, you're staying here. You're staying here.
Yeah.
You are so terrified right now that, like, you can't focus on anything. You can't focus on your studies. You're not safe. You're staying here.
Yeah.
You're safe here. You're staying here. And so she does. And then, as I recall, she was sleeping. And that's when she connected with the Obelisk Gate. That network of obelisks.
When the big oopsie happened.
When the big oopsie happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she fell upward kind of like
in a dream, essentially.
Yeah, she while sleeping, she fell upward. Instead of like looking down, she looked up, and she went into the Obelisk Gate network. And it was very interesting, right? Because she was also able to like connect with the nodes. There's still some nodes around, still functioning.
Well, and she views this whole situation as a nightmare.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like, it's scary to her.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the first time she ever did it. That makes sense. I'm skipping ahead.
The only things that, like, I think were skipped is essentially the and that she can stay safe because she can manipulate him.
And Schaffa's like,
No.
until the one time you can't.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt.
That's fawning.
That's fawning.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Because she ingratiates herself to him.
And it's not manipulation what she's doing. Like, she sees that as her being manipulative, but it's her fawning, it's her people pleasing, it's her walking around on eggshells to appease him.
I mean, there was a moment early on when she was like viewing, like calling him daddy as like pulling a rein.
Yeah.
You know? Like, reminding him of like the situation, and anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
It goes back to the trauma. Like,
for sure.
So everything like keeps pulling back there.
She keeps like trying to rationalize the situation. Like, don't kill my dad. I mean, you know, fair. But.
Well, and we get this part too where, she's like noticing the silver, and she says, "What was I made for then?" And Schaffa says, "To remedy a great mistake, one to which I once contributed."
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And that is what makes Nassun fall asleep, is like, what was the mistake? And
it feels to me,
Schaffa says to enslave your kind. That is the mistake that Schaffa is referring
to. For sure.
Not the mistake that happened centuries ago where Origin took power from the Earth.
I mean,
which I don't think he knows about.
You don't think so? Because
maybe he does, but like, he doesn't see, at least he doesn't see that as a mistake. He sees a mistake as the control that the Guardians have over the Origin.
So you think that the great mistake that he wants to correct, he wants to use Nassun as a tool to free, like, all of the Origins?
Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just him saying that the mistake was to enslave your kind.
That is a mistake.
Yeah.
I thought that when I was reading it, the way I interpreted it, I thought like he was like trying to groom Nassun for the same thing Alabaster's trying to prep Asun for.
To catch the moon. You think that's what Schaffa has in mind?
Maybe. I mean, like, because
that's interesting.
He talks he talks a little bit about how like there's a conflict and how he used to be a part of one side of that conflict and now he's a part of a different side of that conflict, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the big bit, which is how Nassun like connects with the obelisks and like it's fucking scary, and then Eats tries to like, you know, calm her because he thinks she's having a bad dream, and then she fucking slaps him or some shit and he turns to stone.
It's an oopsie. Yeah. So she's like falling asleep and she's having what she thinks is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Something answers her. Something in the sky answers her. And it is those obelisks. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's bad. But it's an interesting perspective because here, reading the book, we really feel, you know, Hoa as the narrator because there's multiple things happening at this time where we have, you know, he's saying what everybody will talk about on this night, right?
Yeah.
Is like, okay, yes, while like, okay, so Nassun has turned this boy into stone.
She connected to the obelisk.
She connected to the obelisk.
These are very big deals. She's shown power like no other in this moment.
Yeah.
But the thing that nobody's going to talk about is how Schaffa fucking puts Jija in his place.
Yeah, and we love to see it.
It was pretty great, honestly. Like, I loved that moment. Like, Jija needed it. Jija needed that moment.
And so they talk about, like, Schaffa's like, well, if you could climb all the way up here, you're well enough for me to fuck you up a little bit.
Yeah. And he's like, he throws Jija to the ground, puts 2 fingers under his chin, like, and he asks Jija, or he tells Jija something. Like, if I remember correctly, he basically tells Jija, you don't have a daughter.
Yeah.
You don't have a daughter anymore. You are not going to see her again. You're not going to speak to her again. Am I clear? And, like, he lets out a whimper of fear and pisses and shits himself.
Yeah.
And that's good enough. That's a good enough answer for Schaffa. He's like, good. He stands up, he walks away, and he's like, oh, yeah, bring her things, please.
Yeah, I love that.
If you would, bring her things.
Just, like, as an afterthought.
Yeah. Because he was planning to go and get her things in the morning.
He's like, well, you saved me the trip.
Yeah. You saved me a trip. And that's, like, that's it. He stopped thinking about Jija after that.
And then, while all of this is happening, screams are coming from the dormitory because all the kids woke up.
Yeah.
And
saw that Eats was a stone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they, then they comfort Nassun.
And she tries to kind of explain to Schaffa, I fell up. She's like, I fell up.
Yeah.
And she's freaking out, trying to explain it. And then Schaffa's like, I'm going to need you
to tell me everything.
Tell me everything. And then calm down.
Yeah.
And take a look at what happened.
Yeah. Like, showed her, like, look, you did this. And then took the stone away. And I think they say that she has no idea where it went.
Yeah, but the picture in my mind is so real of, like, they talk about the Guardians, they're kind of big, and they just, like, lift up this statue of Eats and, like, walk out with him.
Yeah, like, all 3 of them.
I'm like, oh, God. But they believe the last thing that kind of happens in this chapter that's big is that Schaffa and, how do you think you say this name? Nida? Nita?
Anita? Yeah, I think
Nita.
Nita is the name that one of the Guardians gave themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
They think that they have discovered through this that there is still node maintainers alive.
Yeah. They were very surprised to discover there were still node maintainers alive.
And that a fulcrum is operating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have another reveal. And it's interesting because at this time, I think I was like pretty much, okay, yeah, there's no more fulcrums happening. Like, that period of time is over. But it was never, like, confirmed either way. Like, you just don't know for sure.
I don't know about a fulcrum, but I do know...
it is. It's a fulcrum. They say the Antarctic fulcrum is still operating.
Oh, do they straight up say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah.
And they're like, well, shit.
Because there's satellite fulcrums. There's one in the Arctics and one in the Antarctics. And that's not where they are. I mean, it makes sense that it would still be operating. It wasn't nowhere near. It's like literally on the south side of the world. It's like not. It's not anywhere near Humanus. So that makes sense.
And there's one last line that I highlighted. That's
good. Go ahead.
So she's like, "Oh, I'm a monster," and Schaffa says, "Perhaps."
But you're my monster.
You're my monster. Okay, Schaffa.
And for some reason, that was like
kind of cute.
It was like that was good for her. Like, she liked being told that. Like,
because she has somebody who's claiming her and loving her for the things that she does,
for who she is.
Yeah, even the good and the bad. She's not having any. It's unconditional love, or it is. She perceives it as that.
Yeah.
Although I don't think she thinks he loves her.
She's certainly not verbalized that to herself or out loud.
She loves him, but she does not think he loves her because she doesn't think anybody loves her. And so, but this is as close as to acceptance as she's like really gotten. So there is a verse at the end. Too.
Yeah.
Do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Tablet 3 structures, verse 1. Stone lasts, unchanging, never alter what is written in stone.
Of course they did, though. Like, that was what Alabaster said in the first book, remember? Yeah. Like, hey, there were actually 5 tablets. And Nassun was like, bullshit, there's 3. And he's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, that man. I love Alabaster.
Anyways, yeah, so we're going to wrap up there. Big episode.
Yeah,
of course.
huge.
I mean, we focused on chapter 10 a lot.
Yeah, we did.
But, that was my favorite.
Me too, and I think we had to dive in there.
Yeah. But, this was a good chapter, too.
It sure was.
The Schaffa chapter, it was,
I liked the Schaffa chapter, too, because I'm enjoying any perspective by him right now. Because he's so different.
He is very different.
So I just can't get enough.
I do think it's interesting how his first chapter was like 10 years ago. Before we got this chapter, genuinely thought like his chapters were going to be from like years ago. Mm-hmm. Like I did not think it was going to be modern day chapters.
Yeah, I know that it was shocking to have that jump, but I love it because I feel like we're getting closer to a reunion of sorts. Maybe not in this book, but maybe in another book.
Maybe in the third one. Probably in the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where everybody's going to be together. Maybe not everybody. Alabaster, rest in peace, possibly. But
do we want to leave the audience with any questions?
What do you think about the Guardians? Like that is one of the big mysteries that I don't think has been answered. Is how are they different from the Origin? How is a Guardian? Like who decides who is going to be a guardian?
Who decides who's going to be a guardian?
Yeah. Do they have special powers that are shown? Like
other than what we've seen.
Yeah, right. So like, but because we know they get the implant in. So that's my question is like,
I'm wondering if the implant has anything to do with their powers or if the implant is just for control.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. And who came up with the implant? Was it
question.
Origin?
I'm thinking no, because the Guardians control the Origin.
I'm thinking yes, because we know the Origin originally controlled the Fulcrum.
We do?
Yes,
Wait.
they say that in this last chapter.
What did they say?
Hold on, I have it highlighted. So we know that the Origin originally controlled the Fulcrum because basically it says the Fulcrum was nominally run by Origin. You see Origin whom had culled and cultivated, shaped and chosen carefully so that they would obey. So maybe it doesn't say that.
Yeah, no, it's just talking about like how the Guardians were...
Wait, it said, or perhaps it was more accurate to say that we perpetuated their enslavement of themselves.
Yeah, no, that's true. Because I remember in the last book they were talking about, like, you remember that story that Schaffa told Demaya in the beginning, and then how Alabaster, like, recontextualized that story? Uh-huh. And there was, like, it was that whole thing where the Origins, like, that one guy lost his whole family because, like, the Sanzid people were a bunch of cannibals.
Yeah.
And so he was like, he was going to go fuck up Humanist. This was before it was the capital.
Right.
And then, like, he was defeated, and it was because of those events that played out that they created the Fulcrum in Humanist.
Yeah.
And that was, the Guardians created that, and then the Guardians started, like, their whole regime of control of the Origins.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that the Origin are behind a lot of this.
From a long time ago, for sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, anyways. What do you guys think?
What do you think?
Are the Origins responsible, or are the Guardians responsible? Who's really in charge?
Who's in charge here?
Who's in charge here?
I'd like to speak to the manager.
Okay, yeah, we're going to be back in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about chapters 13 through... Wait.
Yeah, 13, 14, 15.
13 through 15.
There we are.
Bye.
Bye.